So Deadpool and Wolverine was directed by Sean Levy and it stars Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman as Deadpool and Wolverine. And this movie, Deadpool is literally pulled into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He learns he can be a hero in this Marvel Cinematic Universe, but learns that all these other universes are about to be destroyed. So he recruits a different version of Wolverine, played by Hugh Jackman again, to basically help him out, save the world and such, save all these worlds and such. So this was a movie that I was definitely looking forward to. I do like the first two Deadpool movies. I'm not the biggest fan of X-Men, but I do own some of the movies, obviously. But I still am at least okay with Hugh Jackman's version of the character, especially towards the end of his run. And I was definitely curious to see like what this movie is going to be like, because obviously it was moving away from Fox and it was going with Marvel, who's associated with Disney now. Are they going to neuter this? Are they going to make it PG-13 esque? Are they going to basically kind of like do what they did in X-Men Origins Wolverine, which was just so Deadpool's mouth a bit? And thankfully, the trailers have shown this is going to be rated R and such. So this was a movie that I was definitely looking forward to. The trailers looked fun, and yeah, this is a pretty good time. I enjoyed myself while watching it. It is definitely a blast from beginning to end. If you already like the Deadpool movies, I think you'll definitely enjoy this one. But I think this one is still fun overall. So let's start off with what I do like in this movie. First off, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have great chemistry throughout this entire movie. You do buy their friendship throughout this entire movie. I do think how they kind of like get together is very fascinating. I do think like how they kind of like form this friendship, like this odd couple esque bonding is like kind of fun at least. As far as the villains go, they're pretty fun. Emma Corrin plays the main villain in this movie, and I thought they did a good job. Matthew McFadden, I'm probably mispronouncing that, but I thought he was pretty funny in this movie too. Definitely some of the better villains in some of these Deadpool movies, if I'm being honest, which I'll kind of talk about. And also, there are some extended cameos in this movie, which I won't spoil. This is a spoiler-free review, and some of them are pretty good. There's one about a third of the way through the movie, which I won't spoil. Another one about halfway through is like, okay, they're doing a good job as well. Again, trying not to spoil those performances because some of them have already leaked, unfortunately. But if I do a Deadpool and Wolverine spoiler review, I'll talk about them a bit. Meanwhile, there are a lot of action sequences that are pretty fun. There's the opening credits one, which I won't spoil again because that one was pretty cool and pretty over the top. The couple fights between Deadpool and Wolverine are pretty fun. There's one in a car. There's one when they first kind of like are trapped and such. That was also pretty fun as well. The fight sequences are pretty fun for the most part. And also, I do think the movie is pretty funny. Like, a lot of these other Deadpool movies are pretty funny, but like this movie had me laughing out loud at several points. Admittedly, sometimes they kind of cross the line for me, but I'll kind of talk about it in a bit. But I still laughed throughout. And also, I do like Wolverine's storyline in this movie, surprisingly. I do think it is very well done. And it definitely, I feel like it doesn't really, destroy the legacy of Hugh Jackman's version of the character from, the original timeline and such, or his original version of Wolverine and such. It's an interesting way to kind of like bring his character back. And I do think I kind of want to see if they do, because like I feel like this is probably going to make a lot of money. If they do bring him back, I kind of want to like see them explore his character a lot more. And also the soundtrack. The soundtrack at first I heard about, I was like, wait, this is the most random soundtrack I've ever seen, even for a Deadpool movie. But when you kind of like see like where the songs are playing, it's like they use them pretty effectively. They're pretty funny. And admittedly, I kind of looked them up afterwards, just kind of like remembered all the scenes afterwards. So I thought that was pretty cool. And one of them popped on the radio when I was driving today. And it's like, I admittedly could not help but laugh during that. And also, I do like the meta commentary in this movie a bit. I won't spoil it here because I feel like, again, I'm trying not to spoil this movie in this review, but I do think it is very interesting and probably the best meta commentary I've seen in one of these Deadpool movies, where I feel like some of these other ones, they kind of just are more like, Deadpool's just breaking the fourth wall and he's just addressing the audience and such. Well, this one's a little bit different, I would say. There's definitely a lot of that in this movie where Deadpool's just, breaking the fourth wall and such. But a lot of the commentary about other things that are kind of like, that have kind of happened, it's like, okay, it's kind of interesting too. So, again, I probably will do a spoiler review now to think about it. But let's talk about some of the things I don't like in this movie. First off, some of the Deadpool characters are just completely sidelined yet again. And it's just very frustrating that they're 3 movies in and they can't really do anything with some of these characters. I'm like, just what's the point? And also, like, at the end of Deadpool 2, which I admittedly am not as, probably one of my, I don't know if I like it less than this movie. I don't know. Deadpool 2 I have a lot of issues with. But I kind of hated the end credit scene because I felt like it undid what they were trying to do, and then this movie tried to undo what they did from that movie. It's like, make up your mind a bit, so I won't spoil it again. And also, there are some cameos which admittedly are pretty cool, but they really don't get a whole lot to do. I won't. Again, it's kind of hard to kind of hard to talk about this movie without spoiling it, but I probably will talk about it in a spoiler video because there's so much to talk about with this movie. And also, admittedly, there are some jokes that don't work. Now, obviously, Disney probably had a lot of rules for them, like you can't make this joke and such. Like you've seen the trailers, like they can't make references to a certain drug. But this movie also makes a lot of references to a lot of other things. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm surprised you're going there for this movie and such. That was very uncomfortable at times. And at first, there's like the opening scene. At first, I was kind of like a little offended by. At first, I just felt like it was in a little poor taste, if I'm being honest. Which again, I'll talk about in a bit. But afterwards, I kind of let that go. I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get what they're trying to go for. They're trying to go for something new here. It's like, I get it. I don't know if I really like the way they're going about it, but at least I get it. And also, I do think there are a few pacing issues here and there. This is the longest Deadpool movie yet at 2 hours and 8 minutes and such, which, that's with the post-credits scenes and such. There are definitely a few pacing issues in this movie, particularly from, like, the halfway mark onward. Like, I felt like there was, like, one sequence where it's like, okay, this feels like the ending and such. Wait, it's still going. Oh, I guess this is the big climactic moment and such. Oh no, there's another big climactic moment. It's like, okay, well, I guess this is all wrapping up now. And it continues on for a little bit. I'm like, it feels like there's like multiple endings to this. And it just, I don't want to say it doesn't work, but it just kind of annoyed me for a while. And even at some point during the movie, Ryan Reynolds looked at the camera. He's like, don't worry, we're wrapping up pretty soon. So it's like, even they kind of knew. So I guess that's Deadpool for you. So, Deadpool and Wolverine. I still had a good time with this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. The actors do a really good job. It is pretty funny throughout. Wolverine's storyline's very well done. The soundtrack's really good. There's a lot of great action sequences, a lot of great fights here and there. Soundtrack's great. The commentary is pretty interesting as well. And even though I don't like what they do with some of the characters, both old and new, and also I don't like all the jokes and there are a few pacing issues, this is still a fun time. If you're a big fan of Deadpool, you'll probably really enjoy this movie. If you're a fan of Wolverine, I think you'll enjoy this movie. You'll definitely enjoy this movie because there's a lot of Wolverine in this movie. I would argue this is actually more Wolverine's movie than Deadpool's movie, but I still think it works overall. Of the multiversal movies that have come out from Marvel, I would say this is not quite as good as something like, say, No Way Home, but definitely better than something like, say, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So, doesn't sound like a high bar, but I'll still take it. I'll give Deadpool and Wolverine 3 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what's your favorite Deadpool or X-Men movie? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.